How's it going out there, YouTube? My name is Jesse, and I am the curator for the Golden Age, and this is another
300th video!
That's not the line that we start with that you originally stole from me.
You want me to do the other one?
It would be nice if we can keep some consistency.
Lost Heroes of the Golden Age.
Yes, this is Lost Heroes of the Golden Age, and this time...
300th video!
You already said that.
Didn't seem to accept it the first time.
It's because you were doing it as the first thing you said. Yes, this is the 300th video. Turn off the music. No, we are not doing that. Because
Why?
You can't sing.
That's hurtful.
Anyways, yes, this is the 300th video on this channel. I never thought that I would get here. Now, not all of my heroes have been like the Lost Heroes of the Golden Age format. I have done lots of Golden Age heroes. A lot of them started off as spotlights before I retooled the format and had access to comic books, which made me, go more into depth and detail on these things. But I hope you've been enjoying the channel. I hope you get back to watch some of my old stuff and enjoy all my new stuff. I never thought that it would get to 300. Now we just need to get the subscription count up to, higher than it is. Tell your friends and families, hey, this guy covers Golden Age. Maybe something that you've seen, maybe somebody that's your favorite or somebody that you want to see I haven't covered yet. I'm always willing to take requests, but I want to get that subscriber count up there to match what other people with 300 have. It's got to be more than, what do I have, like 580, something like that. Anyways, yeah, I definitely want to get the subscription count up to match the amount of videos, because I love informing people about things. That's why I do what I do. Anyways, we are covering over a hero that I have been wanting to cover for some time. It was such an interesting, weird, and goofy nature that I haven't covered it yet. But it's something that I knew that I wanted to include on one of the Ace months, and this is the 5th patriotic superhero I found in the Ace comics that we've reviewed. We've done the Unknown Soldier, we've done the Flag, Captain Courageous, and Captain Victory, and this time it is the Lone Warrior. Despite what he's dressed up as, he seems like kind of a Captain America knockoff, and that's just because his physical strength has been enhanced by a formula he got, but it quickly shows that it's not. I think it was inspired by Captain America, but then it turned into its own thing, and I don't think it was very popular, or after the Captain Courageous comic, it would have gone on to 4 Favorites or Super Mystery and just had more issues. But let's go ahead and cover the Lone Warrior, which I've stated doesn't make any sense because he has a partner. That means that you're not lone. I mean, you're not alone. You've got a partner. You're just the Warrior, which would have been fine to call yourself the Warrior. Lone Warrior didn't really make that much sense to begin with, in my opinion, anyways. So let's go ahead and go over what we're going to call a scientifically enhanced superhero, because he wasn't grown with the powers. He was given the powers through a formula that his dying father injected him and his brother with. And yes, they stressed the point of dying father, considering that they mention it more than once. So let's go ahead and cover the Lone Warrior. The Lone Warrior, Stan Carter, first appeared in Banner Comics number 3 in 1941. The publisher is Ace, created by Unknown. Right away, he's not the Lone Warrior because he has a partner. I mean, that right there. I mean, you could have called yourself the Warrior and been just fine. Lone wasn't necessary. I think they might have been trying to do like a Lone Ranger aspect, because Stan is wearing a mask and Dickie is not, his brother. Okay. They had, both of them had 4 appearances, the 3 issues of Banner Comics and Captain Courageous Comics. Now, as I mentioned with Captain Courageous, nobody knows why the numbering started. It's Banner Comics is 3 through 5, And then Captain Courageous takes up that numbering for his only issue named after him for number 6. But nobody knows what the first 2 issues before Banner Comics was. It's just going to remain a mystery out there. Now, they both have the power elixir, but Dan has a W and Dickie doesn't seem to have a W on his chest. Which, he says in the first issue, that's just my vaccination mark. But if both of them were infected, why didn't they both get the W? It didn't really make any sense. Now, they had they had strength and a measure of durability that went along with their strength, and they had this vehicle called the Wonder Ship. The Wonder Ship had the ability to be a number of different things. It could be a car, a plane, a tank, or a submarine, depending on the flips that you, the switches that you flip. The power elixir and the ship were both created by their father before their father died. And they mentioned our dying father gave us the formula. They didn't want to make sure you found that out in the first issue. Now, along with the vehicle being able to turn into a number of different other types of vehicles, it was also damage-proof and ray-proof. And what I mean by that is in the second issue, a guy invented a machine that can stop motors from working, and the bad guys tried to use it against the Wonder Ship, and it didn't work because they said it's ray-proof. I think it was also equipped with a Gatling gun. Now, in the first 3 issues, he took on an enemy called the Dictator's Shadow. And the Dictator's Shadow was a leader of 5th columnists, and in the first issue, they were trying to sabotage munition depots. And in the second and third appearance, the villain actually took on Washington. It was actually like, whoa, they're actually not just talking about it, they're doing it. And the second issue, he got a hold of the motor stopping device and was using that against the American airplanes and vehicles, but the Lone Warrior was able to stop him. And in the third and last appearance, he had these gigantic men, and he was using those, let's see, he called them the Mongols. And he originally had 1,000 of them, as they stated, and it was whittled down to the last 20. And the Lone Warrior stopped the Mongols as they were trying to kill all the high-powered officers that, for some reason, were at the White House at that time. So those were the 3 issues that he was in. He was never revealed, and he had a power of this ray beam that allowed his shadow to be projected in different areas where he actually wasn't. So you went after him, and you were trying to tackle a shadow that wasn't there. Stan kept falling for it, and they finally got him in the last episode of Banner Comics when they turned it into a submarine and destroyed the boat that he was on, and he drowned. Now, whether or not they were going to keep him going is in the 5th issue of Banner, they said stay tuned to see if he's still alive in the next issue of Banner Comics. But there was no more, as it would become Captain Courageous. And then in the last issue, it's kind of weird. These people tampered with the laundry facility, so they had to quarantine a town that all the soldiers were in because they thought it was something being spread around, which left the base severely depleted on manpower, and they were going to rob the munitions of the base because there was nobody really there to guard that from that. But the Lone Warrior and Dickie were able to break it up and take them to prison. Twice, Stan got thrown into lockup because in one issue, he knocked out a sergeant who was actually working with the 5th columnist, but he was a private, so he got thrown into lockup for abandoning his post. And in the second issue, he was knocked out and thrown into the laundry room. I know, highly durable, still somehow gets knocked out. And they thought that he was responsible for the laundry being tampered with, which caused an infection to go throughout the town, which caused him to be quarantined in the first place. In both cases, he got let out because he was found that he didn't do anything wrong. So, I mean, that's it. There's not a whole lot to go into. There's not a whole lot to dissect. With the 4 issues, that's what you got. I did find their outfits slightly entertaining. At least they're not wearing shorts, thank goodness. But they are patriotic. Stan joins the army in his first issue, and he remained as far as the last issue showed us. Dickie, I guess, was in a boys' camp, but he was always close by whenever the Lone Warrior dressed up. Even when there was no indications that he was needed, he still somehow always showed up. So let's go ahead and go over the first issue so you can see how they were introducing him and where they might have gone in the future if they kept him going after the Captain Courageous comic, because Captain Courageous would go on to 4 favorites, even though this would be the last one for the Lone Warrior. No cover appearances. I think he might have been mentioned once or twice. Also, there's one more thing that's interesting. The Lone Warrior comic was as long as the Captain Courageous comic book. They were both 16 pages. That was actually a little unusual. If you weren't the lead feature and the lead cover, your story was usually a lot shorter than the main characters' comics. If they were 16, you'd probably reduce to 10 or 8. So the fact that both of them were 16 was actually a little surprising. And it felt like they stretched it out a little bit to make it 16. It really didn't need to get that long. So let's go ahead and review The Lone Warrior. The Lone Warrior. The Dictator's shadow is falling across civilization. That shadow is creeping over America, last stronghold of freedom. But a mighty champion arises against this menace. The Lone Warrior. From every corner of the United States come men in answer to the call for national defense. There's a Nazi symbol, like we could forget who we're going up against. The 2 things here. One, he has a partner. It's his brother. So you can obviously not be the Lone Warrior unless you work alone. You have a partner. Yeah, another thing I noticed is he has a W on his chest. Now, both of them have been given the same power elixir. They mention it more than one time. But the older brother has a W on his chest and says it's his vaccination mark. But his younger brother doesn't have a W. But they were both given the same formula by their father. And I don't understand why the older brother has a W and the younger one doesn't. It just always felt kind of weird. All right. A new recruit appears at Camp Trenton along with hundreds of other young men eager to serve their country. So here he is just checking in, going into the doctor's office. The doctor says, you're in A1 shape, but he was curious about the W. He called it a queer mark. Yeah, I know. It's littered all over the Golden Age. He says it's his vaccination mark, and he goes over to a test machine so they can just get an idea of how strong they were. Now, I'm confused by this machine because as people who have been watching my videos for a long time, you know that I have been in the Army, and we never did a machine of any kind of caliber, weight, any kind of caliber or anything that tested our strength. So I want to know what in the world this machine is. Anyways, he pulls the machine apart so far hard that he breaks it. You busted the machine. You don't know your own strength. I'm sorry, sir. And then we get another page where he's checking in. He finds out where he's supposed to be at and who his tent mate is, Joe Harvey, which plays no other part in the story except for this issue. Glad to know you. I'm Stan Carter. And he notices the uniform, but he just tells him that it's a silk scarf. So after his tent mate leaves, he says that he's going to put his secret outfit under his uniform so that nobody sees it. Okay, so he says that he has no duties today, so he's going to meet his brother outside of camp. Meanwhile, at the nearby boys' camp, Dickie, younger brother of Stan Carter, also leaves. Where are you going, Dickie? Oh, I'm just going to take a hike. See you later. So he runs and he's supposed to meet his brother at the edge of camp, and as he gets to the edge of Camp Trenton, he notices a near the arsenal of Camp Trenton. First of all, why would this arsenal be at the edge of a camp? I understand that you don't want high explosives in a densely area with a lot of people around, but at the edge of camp, it's extremely exposed, which, and you see in this page, these guys are going to sabotage it because it's very easily exposed, and I don't see any guards around it. There's the arsenal. Stan should be around soon. Oh, what's going on at the arsenal? And we see these guys, and they're planting a bomb. This will do the trick. The Dictator Shadow will be pleased. The Dictator Shadow is actually a character. His name is Dictator Shadow. I thought it was a weird thing too, but that is his name. So Dickie sees that he needs to go tell his brother about the nefarious deeds that he goes on. He says he saw saboteurs are going to blow up the arsenal. So they both shed their outfit or their outer clothing, and they both have their uniforms on. This calls for the Lone Warrior, and me too. Well, at that point, you're not the Lone Warrior. He tells Dickie to stay back, and this is where we get a little bit of exposition here. But Dad said I was to help you, Stan. He gave me the vaccination of power elixir too. Dad was the world's greatest scientist. Before he died, he inoculated us with the power elixir and told me to go out and fight evil. I'm carrying out his wishes as the Lone Warrior. Why did you feel the need to tell him what he just told you about the power elixir? I mean, I know it's for the benefit of the audience, but you should have made that a thought bubble. Like, Dad did give it to him. It would still be the exposition for us without you looking like an idiot reminding him of what he just told you. Okay, if you must, you must. Let's go. So they both go down to the arsenal, and Dickie says that they're too late, but they still rush towards the arsenal and explodes in their face. Now, we already know that they're both super strong, because if he's elected with the same formula, and we know how strong Stan is, we can assume Dickie is very strong as well. But they're also incredibly durable, because the explosions blow up almost in their face, and they're like, "Are you all right, Warrior?" "Yes, Dickie, come on, let's get those rats." Now, that's what I always found interesting about the Lone Warrior, as Dickie refers to his brother as Warrior a lot. Not the Lone Warrior, but Warrior. Like right there, "Are you all right, Warrior?" Okay, so let's see, we did a good job. Our chief, the Dictator Shadow, will reward us. Yeah, hi, rats. Now, they come in and they start beating them and using one-liners. "For Uncle Sam, shooting squirrels. Wood meet wood." I don't understand what wood meant. That was wood. They're weird. I mean, are you trying to say he has a wooden skull? That wouldn't make any sense. "Into the thorns with you. This'll clean him up. Help." So they back up the car, and okay, this guy almost had an explosion in his face. Barely phase him, yet the car backs up into him and knocks him down to the point where they're able to get away. What a bump. They got away. Later, we see them putting their uniform back on, and they're talking about how lay off Dickie if the Dictator Shadow strike again. Okay, I know that the bad guys, before the Lone Warrior showed up and said, they mentioned the name of Dictator Shadow, but I don't think that the Lone Warrior was close enough to hear that, and they never said the main villain's name in their presence, so he shouldn't know who the Dictator Shadow is. Okay, so they get redressed, and then we see the Dictator Shadow. Yeah, this guy is weird. Okay. So, we blew up the arsenal, Chief, but someone by the name of the Lone Warrior tried to interfere. Okay, they did not say their name in your presence. You should not know that he's the Lone Warrior. What you should have said is a costume person showed up. But he never said the Lone Warrior in your presence, and from all outward appearances, this is the first time you've ever heard of him, so it hasn't been on the news before. Because you said someone by the name, which means you've never met him, you've never seen him, and their name was never mentioned, so you shouldn't know he's the Lone Warrior. And that's not even for us, because we know what comic we're reading. Some trifling fool, disregard him. No one can stop the Dictator's shadow. So we go on and we see the kind of munitions that he has been, that he has at his disposal. Resuming his role as Private Stan Carter, he awaits the next move and the foreign agents, and a week later. So, call assembly, burglar, or bugler, the whole camp will participate in a sham battle today. So, it's a week later and they're having a mock battle, which would probably mean that you have blanks and in some war games, some of their tanks have like these flour bombs. It's bombs that when they explode, they make, it's like with flour. Like if you ever seen Malcolm in the Middle, they did that in the war game episodes. You don't want to have ordnance that's going to kill people. This is supposed to be a training exercise. Okay, so they divide them up in blues and greens. And it looks like Stan has been put in charge of some of them. Over the top, men, those blanks sounds vicious. And all of the men by his side start to fall down. The Greens only fired blank, but somebody shot real bullets. So all the men are going down because they're getting shot for real. Let's see, a short time later, most of the regiment dropped one by one. They stopped firing now to find those murderers. So either the bullets hit him and bounced off, or they missed him. They didn't get everyone. They said most of them dropped. Now, for some reason, Dickie was close enough that he heard the shots. I heard the firing. What's up, Stan? Okay, they're on base in the middle of a war game. Why would you be anywhere in the vicinity that you should be able to show up because you heard gunfire? Okay. The Lone Warrior mentions it's the Dictator's shadow, which you absolutely have no proof of that. You have mentioned a number of the soldiers have been killed. You don't know that this is the work of the Dictator's shadow. You're assuming. So they get into this, let's see, concealed in the woods is the Wonder Ship. Now this Wonder Ship is pretty badass. It really is. Okay, so they get into, and he says, jump in, we have to track down Kampf and his men. Now, I know that the only time that this name was mentioned when the Lone Warrior was around was a word bubble. They never said Kampf, K-A-M-P-F. That name should be completely unfamiliar to you because they never said his name in your presence. So you shouldn't know who is the leader of the little gang. Like a bolt of lightning, the supercar rolls out of its secret hiding place. This is Dad's greatest invention. I thought the greatest invention was the formula that he gave you guys. He left it for us to aid in our battle against the evil in the world. Thanks for the exposition. Okay, so they locate the car and they recognize the car from the last time. We'll give them the same thing that you gave those Yankees on the battle, or we'll give them the same thing we gave those Yankees on the battlefield. Ah, what is this? The bullets, they bounce off. So we find out that the vehicle is bulletproof. Dad made the Wonder Ship damage-proof. Oh, it's damage-proof. That's even better than bulletproof. So suddenly the escaping car shoots behind a high-voltage screen, which apparently the car is damage-proof, but can't stop high voltage. Seems rather odd. Okay, so he says it's the high tense wire and they'll be electrocuted. So he presses some buttons and wings pop out. And now the car turns into a plane. Dad was a genius, presto, and it's an airplane. So he tells Dickie to take the controls and he leaps out of the airplane. How very Captain America of you. So they're pretty high. They're pretty high up enough that he wants to use a parachute. now to invade the enemy's fort. So, this is what I don't understand. He's sneaking around the back of the fort, and he's talking loud enough that they recognize he's there, and they hit him in the back, or on the top of the head, with a billy jack. Now, you're incredibly strong. You took an explosion to the face, and the billy jack takes you out. No, I call major BS on this. Artificial tension to extend the story. Okay, it's the Lone Warrior. I shall eliminate him. He's very annoying. Pull that lever, handcuff. The Lone Warrior is the only person in America who stands in my way. He shall die a horrible death. Ha 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 ha. What about Dickie? Dickie's been there every step of the way. So they release gas into where he's being held, and he notices it's poison gas. And he's like, if I have enough strength left. Now, I have a little problem with the size of this, like, little corner over here. It's enough that he can go into and press himself off to be able to make the strong push through the wall. Why do you build a little corner like that? There's no practical use for it. I mean, maybe in a normal house, something like that could be a broom closet, but it doesn't seem to make any sense. It feels like it was there just for the Lone Warrior to be able to get the leverage he needs to break through the wall. The Lone Warrior exerts his last ounce of his great strength in the desperate try for freedom and busts through the wall. As he busts through the wall, he starts beating bad guys, and he punches some of them so hard they go flying. I landed the Wonder Ship. Save some for me. Take your pick, Dickie. So they start to fight the bad guys, and they see that a shadow pops up, and he charges for the shadow, but there's nobody there. But the Lone Warrior finds himself clutching only a shadow. What? Ha 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 ha. He came from over there. No, he came from over here. He's gone. Anyway, we can deliver Kampf and his men to prison. You still shouldn't know who that name is. Okay. So later on, there is one person paratrooping into a base, and they said they're being evaded, and said, no, it can't be. The men are tied up. So the Lone Warrior dropped them off with parachutes. Okay, I only see one man. Apparently, he said men are tied up. The note, hero of the saboteurs, yours truly, the Lone Warrior. The Lone Warrior won't stop me. I've got another trick on my sleeve. So the Dictator shadow isn't too far from sight. The following day, Private Stan Carter stands sentry. So the very next day, the Dictator shadow attacks, and he's attacking with tanks. So they get into the Wonder car, plane, whatever, and they charge towards the enemy tanks. And they said, we're going to grind it to shreds. And then all of a sudden, the car extends tank shreds. It's magic! And since it's damage proof and they have tread, they tears into the enemy and starts knocking them all over the place. And the tanks go flying. And then they notice that he takes off in a plane, so they convert to a plane and they follow him as the Dictator shadow runs into a cave. So they run into the cave after him, and they get attacked and smacked across the head. But this time, it doesn't knock them out. They quickly subdue the gang, and they try to capture the shadow again, but he disappears because he has a ring that lets him project where he is, so they get fooled again. You won't get fooled again. Later in the Wonder Ship, you guys won't trouble Uncle Sam anymore, but the biggest fish got away. So they drop off the men, and let's see, we'll read the last two panels. What's this? Compliments of the Lone Warrior. You're not alone. The next day at Camp Trenton, Private Stan Carter hears the news. Did you hear about the Lone Warrior and the saboteurs he cleaned up? Yes, wonder who he is. The Lone Warrior must keep his identity a secret, lest the enemies of America seek him out. He will meet the Dictator shadow again in the next issue of Banner Comics. Will he unmask the elusive sinister evil? And that's it. I hope that you've enjoyed this. I've got a couple of more characters in 8th month. I hope you've watched all 300 videos. I mean, I know I have. Anyways, I think I made an update video that I might have removed once, but they did say that there's 300 videos logged on there. So we're going to go ahead and watch all 300. I need the views up in some of my other videos. Like I said, tell your friends. Until next time, I'll be seeing you.